Hey, welcome back to Prepping with Sarge. So we're trying a little bit of a different format for the pre-recorded today. Let me know down in the comments if you like it. Today's topic, we're going to talk about blocked roads and these, protests that are blocking highways, things like that. If you're watching this, there's a pretty good chance that you're just trying to get home to your kids, or maybe you're trying to get to work, or you're just trying to get some holiday shopping in, and you want to do it safely. Well, couple things we need to talk about today. So, number one, some basic prepper skills are going to be required to handle this with some common sense, right? We're going to get to that stuff, but the first thing to let you know is if you're not on certain media that does not censor. For example, Twitter is a platform that doesn't censor as much. There's still some censorship going on over there, but it doesn't censor as much. There is a lot of these protests going on, not just around the world, but in the United States right now. And protesters, demonstrators are blocking up highways for various reasons. There's a number of different things that they're protesting about. But without getting too much into the ethics of this, I will give you really quickly my bias towards this is that I don't think it's a form of peaceful protest personally. That being said, I do respect everyone's right to gather in free assembly and protest. But the problem with blocking a road and a highway is that you don't know how you're affecting somebody else. There may be a pregnant person in there. There may be an ambulance that's trying to get somebody to the hospital. There may be a mom that's trying to get home to her kids that really can't be home alone for more than an hour or two. There could be a kid in those cars with special needs that needs to get home and take his medication. So it can have a very profound effect on innocent people who have nothing to do with your protest, whether it be for or against or neutral for whatever those protests are. So I don't think it's a good form of peaceful protest. And you can let me know down in the comments whether you disagree or agree with me on that. I always welcome some chatter and debate down there. So there is a lot of this going on. Your mainstream media sources are not covering this. You need to be paying attention to your local news, and you need to, as I've said in some other videos before, you need to go to your apps on your smartphone. Hopefully you've got a smartphone. Go to your apps on your smartphone and take a look at the local channels if they have an app. Most of them do. Your local news sources. Turn those on and set your notifications to emergency alerts, and then any other for your state or local municipalities, turn on your emergency alerts. These do a very good job of telling you if a highway is closed. You can also go to another great app is Waze, Waze, and check your roads. If this stuff's going on in your area, check your roads before you leave the house or before you leave work. No alternate routes in and out because sometimes one highway might be blocked, but you can get home a different way. That being said, let's say that something happens, and in the process of you getting on the highway before you get to your destination, some massive protest breaks out and your highway is blocked. Well, the sooner you know about it, the sooner you can get off on an exit before you get stuck in that and try to get away from it. Again, good idea to maybe keep those alerts on your phone turned on, your notifications turned on for that kind of thing, and be using a traffic app like Waze. But let's say that you didn't do that. So every prepper, if you're watching this channel, hopefully you're already kind of on board with some basic principles of being prepared. But every prepper should have certain things in their car. Number one, you need some kind of repair kit for flat tires, things like that. Way to charge up your battery if your battery is getting dead. Keep your car at least half full with gas. That's good practice for all preppers, anyways. In case you get stuck there for a very long time. Whether you decide to carry self-defense in your vehicle or not is up to you. We don't get into that too much on this channel. We do occasionally touch on it. But I will say that I've seen enough of these videos on Twitter to know that sometimes these crowds are turning violent on the drivers and they're dragging people out of their vehicles and beating them to death. Okay, so there's definitely the possibility that can happen. And I don't blame any driver who fears for their life and decides to make a move, if you get my drift. That being said, there will be legal consequences if you hit somebody intentionally or accidentally. So you need to be aware of that. And trying to sell to a jury that you felt like you're in danger for your life when you're inside your vehicle is a tough sell. Okay. I know the expression, better to be tried by six than better to be tried by 12 than hung by six. I get that. Make your own decisions based on what you believe is the right thing for your safety. Just kind of going over all the different possibilities of how that could play out. What else could you carry in your car? Well, something nondescript, something gray, man, like a gray hoodie or a black hoodie or something like that. That if you had to abandon your vehicle, throw that on, grab whatever you need for your EDC, and you could abandon your car before you get up to the crowd, right? And then you could probably just blend into the crowd. In fact, there was a guy who's getting attacked by these protesters, rioters, whatever we want to label them. And that's exactly what he did. He distracted them for a second, or they got distracted for a second. He slipped on, he slipped on a black hoodie, pulled the hoodie up, and just kind of blended in with the crowd, moved around, took a couple of zigs and zags, and within a few seconds, nobody knew who the driver was anymore. So that's a very good strategy if you have to abandon your vehicle. Forget about your stuff. Yeah, I get it. We all have stuff in there. We value our vehicle. It's our personal possessions. Nobody has a right to it except for you. I totally get that. But for me, your life means more than that. And I want you to survive an encounter like this if it goes bad. Okay. What other good things are there to carry in your vehicle? Well, if it's nighttime, you should be having a flashlight on you, right? And no, your smartphone does not count as a flashlight. It can be a backup flashlight, but you want your smartphone for other activities such as calling for help, checking your maps, things like that. So you want a flashlight that's a dedicated flashlight. It can be small, but if it's at nighttime, you're going to be glad that you had that. You may choose to carry a get home bag in your vehicle. That's up to you. If you are going to do that, this is maybe a good argument for why you want to do something gray, man, like something nondescript. It's going to blend in with the crowd, a gray or black JanSport, like a cheap Walmart bag or something like that. That's not going to look very tactical. There's a better chance that you're going to be able to blend in the crowd with something like that. First aid kit. Everybody should be carrying a first aid kit in your vehicle. And maybe it's that you encounter somebody else that's been hurt. Maybe it's one of the protesters. Maybe it's somebody that's been hurt by these protesters. But you might be in a place where you can render aid. I've got a link for Rhino Rescue down in rolling on the banner down below, which you should be able to see, but also in the description if it's not showing for you. Check out Rhino Rescue. In my opinion, they make the best first aid kits for preppers, hands down. Check them out. And there's a discount code there for you. But if you don't want to use Rhino Rescue, that's okay. Build your own first aid kit, but you got to have a first aid kit in your car. It's a really good idea. Always be thinking ahead about alternate routes. If you have to drive a different way, or if you have to walk, you have to abandon your car, whatever, what is your safest way out of the X, right? Like, so if the protest is going on Main Street in your city, you know the different ways to get to the perimeter of that and off of that X as quick as you can, right? And you don't want to get caught up in that stuff, because there's this thing that goes on called group psychology or group think, where people can get dangerous when they're in a large group of people and they think that their actions will not have consequences, or their actions will be perceived as anonymous because they blend into the crowd. There's another one called broken windows theory, which is if you take sociology or criminology, you're probably going to learn about broken windows theory, which is basically that once one person in the crowd starts doing damage, whether it be to a vehicle, a building, or whatever, if there's no immediate consequence to that, if that person doesn't get immediately arrested, then the crowd will get this group psychology thing going where they believe there's not going to be a consequence, and things start deteriorating really, really fast. And you almost have like a without rule of law. People will do things that they wouldn't normally do in those kind of situations. So you need to be aware that when you get large groups of people together and things are starting to get rowdy and there doesn't seem to be a police presence, or the police have lost control over the situation, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to get out of there, because there's a good chance people are going to do things they wouldn't normally do if they thought there was going to be a consequence, or that thought they were going to be identified. Okay. And it's somewhat of like an unconscious, subconscious drive. There's been cases where people who are really good law-abiding citizens have done some really terrible things. They just get caught up in this, and they probably wouldn't have done that under most circumstances. But unfortunately, they got caught up in the group thing. So be aware of that. Folks, if there's anything else, any other tips you can think of down below, please go ahead and comment them in the comments down below. Share anything that you've got. The number one rule of survival is to survive. And one of the greatest quotes that I ever read or heard was from Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast, where he said, if you don't go to stupid places and you don't do stupid things with stupid people, your chances of survival go up exponentially. And that's true, right? So again, I respect everybody's right to protest, but violence is not okay, right? So be aware that these situations are getting violent in many cases, and you need to take whatever precautions you need to take to be safe, okay? And just remember that I get it. I get you're frustrated. I get that you might feel your life is in danger, but be aware and think ahead of like, what am I going to do if A, B, C, or happens? C or D happens, right? So if you see ahead of you, they're dragging people out of cars and beating them to death or near death. Yeah, that's a dangerous situation. If you can get out before they get to your car, get out and go, right? Forget about your car. Forget about your possessions. They do not matter as much as you do. You matter, okay? Folks, I hope this was helpful. If it was in any way, please consider giving me a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to check in the description down below for links for products that I think you will like, products that the prepping community will find helpful, products that I use. Keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.